Good morning, faculty, staff, family, friends, and fellow classmates. If I'm being completely honest, I'm here for one reason and one reason only: my cohort. My wonderful cohort. Not only did they refuse to come up here themselves, but they actually banded together to offer me as a sacrificial lamb for this ceremony. Joking of circumstances that have led us to this point aside, I recognize this opportunity as an honor. It's an honor to speak to you all today, and an even greater honor to speak on behalf of the achievements of the December class of 2022. This remarkable group of 60 bachelor students, 20 master students, and 3 doctoral students. These future nurse leaders, they've gone above and beyond what has been asked of them, and due to the conditions of the last 2.5 years, have been fulfilling their duties and responsibilities of a nurse for their communities long before today. Looking back now, how many of us can say that we knew we'd end up here? I'm not talking about graduating, but instead about the person each of us is today. We've been granted the privilege of seeing humanity at every stage. Staring into the eyes of a baby boy mere minutes old, we've quite literally held our future generation. And in the final breaths of an elderly woman, surrounded by her family, we've seen the end of a dignified life and proof of a life well loved. And we've stood beside our patients through some of the most difficult decisions they've ever had to make. And that particular feeling I've had firsthand experience with rather recently. After all, it was only a month ago that a call came in towards the end of my 12-hour shift in the operating room. A gentleman would be arriving following a motor vehicle crash. And due to the trauma of the crash, this man had suffered a detached retina, the separation of a layer of the eye that allows a person to see. This man was currently blind in his left eye, and unless fixed immediately, the vision loss would be permanent. Under normal circumstances, it would be debated whether we should even attempt a procedure while the human body was still fragile from the crash, but this was no normal circumstance. You see, this man had been genetically born with no vision in his right eye, meaning to lose the sight in his left eye now would leave him completely blind. Knowing this was his only chance at seeing the faces of his family ever again, he consented to the procedure. 3 hours of surgery later, working to restore this man's vision while also keeping his vitals and his organs stable, myself and a team of nurses and surgeons were successful. He still has a long road to recovery, but I'm optimistic that he'll get to see again. I think back to this moment often, and how much it meant to me as a nursing student to be able to participate in such a noble effort. And if it wasn't for the preparation and opportunities provided by the School of Nursing, I would have never been able to. And for allowing us this chance to make a difference in someone's lives, we have many people to thank. To this institution, we thank you for providing an environment of learning, safety, and growth. Now speaking directly to the extraordinary staff and faculty at the School of Nursing. For your years of service dedicated to this institution, for all the students you've educated, advised, and guided, for all the countless lives of patients your students will go on to provide care for, and for the late nights and the long hours spent working, for never giving up on us, even when we felt like giving up on ourselves. We sincerely thank you. And last but not least, to all the family members, friends, and mentors in the audience today. From the deepest parts of our hearts, we thank you. You shaped the very foundation of who we are, and then dropped the reins and said, you take it from here. And look where we are now. Not too shabby, huh? Our institution's motto, what starts here changes the world, it can be a bit misleading. I used to think that changing the world started after I graduated from UT, but I've come to realize that we can and we have changed the world already as students. Our bachelor's and master's students have helped establish a clinic geared specifically towards African American men to educate, identify, and better manage their hypertension, which is one of the most common comorbidity diagnoses in the United States. Just this year, our bachelor students traveled to the state capitol, where they gave 19 different testimonies in front of Texas legislature, ranging in topics from how to improve healthcare coverage for those with disability to improving public education curriculum. Amongst our master's program, we have students that are developing interactive games for patients with heart failure to help them recognize their symptoms and prevent complications that could land them in the hospital. These innovative minds are blending the world of technology and medicine to create opportunities to reach people before they become sick. And our doctoral students. They have shouldered the responsibility of furthering the field of nursing through research and implementation of evidence-based practices. Only a handful of nurses obtain such a distinguished title, and they've gone on to do amazing things. I have no doubt these graduates will too. Across all 3 programs, we have students that have traveled abroad and returned from providing much-needed support to disadvantaged countries, a reminder to be thankful for what we have and to help others however way we can. We even raised a baby, kind of. Well, we did throw a baby shower in the middle of a maternity class, which was no easy feat. Okay, the person who did the real heavy lifting is graduating today. She's a superhero and an amazing mother, not just to her daughter, but to all of us. In fact, I think it's important to recognize just how different all of our journeys have been and how each of us has had our own unique struggles to overcome in order to stand where we are today. Some of us are caregivers. Some of us are first-generation students. Some of us weren't even born here, but now call this place home, and some of us call this place home, yet we'll go on to leave it in order to provide aid in foreign regions as members of international medical relief brigades or as members of the U.S. Armed Forces. We are proof that the call to nursing has no boundaries and that a life dedicated to humanity is as noble a pursuit as any profession can hope to be. The list of achievements and accolades of my classmates goes on, and I truly believe we've been so successful because we believed and supported each other from the very beginning. When I was a freshman, one of the first lessons we were taught was the concept of feeding one another. And this was taught to us through the story called the Allegory of Spoons. In this story, several people are gathered around a gaping hole, and at the center, a bowl of soup placed on a narrow pedestal. Each person had a spoon with a handle long enough to stretch across the gaping hole and reach the bowl of soup. But unfortunately, the handles were so long that afterwards it was impossible to bring the spoonful of soup close enough to their mouths in order to eat it. They tried many times to feed themselves, but they never could. These people became thin from starvation and desperate to the point where they would fight each other over this unreachable soup. Until one day, in the midst of a fight, one man's spoon was knocked from his grasp into the gaping hole. Without a spoon, he was convinced he would die and soon began to weep. A woman took pity on the man's misfortune, and she used her own spoon to once again reach inside the bowl of soup. But instead of trying to bring it to her own mouth, she held it in front of the man's. He was in shock, but with an encouraging smile from the woman, the man ate her spoonful of soup, and instantly he became happy and full. Everyone around the hole soon followed suit too, using their spoons to feed those around them until they were all happy and full. I tell you this story because in a nursing school such as ours, the key to fulfillment is knowing that we either rise together or we don't rise at all. That means that every word of encouragement, every study group, every carpool to clinicals, every research project, and endless nights perfecting a dissertation defense, every terrible nursing pun sent over the group chat, and every time one of us was crying on the hallway floor out of disappointment or grief or frustration, and another person just sat beside them. Whether we realized it or not, those were moments where we decided to feed each other, to remind each other that we are not alone on this journey. Class of 2022, if you'll allow me, I'd like to extend one last assignment to us all. This one won't be submitted over Canvas, but it will be required, so listen closely. As we go from here to see new places and meet new people, I challenge us to be kind to others, generous to others, honest with others, and patient with others. And more importantly, extend those same courtesies to ourselves. Kindness, generosity, honesty, and patience are easy to understand now, but we'll be surprised how easily they're forgotten during difficult times. I hope we think back to this moment often, to this assignment, as a reminder to be happy and live well. Here it is, the end of my speech, the close of an extraordinary chapter, and a reminder that these are the last few moments that we'll get to spend together. Here I am, selfishly continuing to talk, so that we stay like this just a bit longer. In the words of one of the wisest minds to ever exist, Winnie the Pooh, how lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. I'm confident that what's ending here has changed our lives for the better, and what's starting here will change the world. I'm forever grateful for the time we spent together, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all one last time. Congratulations, class of 2022.